right, welcome to this Saturday edition of Quick Hits here on DB2. David here with Butler as always. And Butler, today we are talking Carolina receivers, Terrace Marshall. Um, he was the number two wide receiver for him last week. Didn't have a huge game, 4 for 48 on 5 targets, so he's at least catching most of what's coming to him. I just there's got to be a number two here, and I feel fairly strongly that he's going to be him over Anderson. I like the way he plays. He's a rookie. I just had this pulled up, and now I forgot what round he was drafted in, but I
Second
think he was
round,
like second
late
round. I was
second.
say I thought it was pretty high, and it's obviously they like him. Darnold's going to need a second wide receiver to throw to, and I just like his talent. He was the second most targeted last week. Just a guy that I feel that is not on a lot of people's radars, probably for good reason. He's 70th overall or 76th overall right now in the season, but I think he's a guy who's going to steadily work his way up into maybe a top 35, 40 guy, a guy you could justifiably put in your flex if you have to.
Yeah, so I think what's really interesting about this is, so one, he's a second round pick. So if you're wondering, like, I always think that's kind of like an idea that go like I kind of put that in the back of my mind, just like, okay, how much do you think they're invested in him? I thought the same
Yeah.
thing with Jamar Chase. Like, obviously the Burrow stuff, we've talked about that. That's obviously worked out quite well. But even with people weren't very high on him coming into the season, but not us, but we could pat ourselves on the back every time for Jamar Chase. But
Well,
with Terrace Marshall, the thing that sticks out, obviously being a second round pick, so they're highly invested with him. Sam Darnold has been way better than expected. I think
yeah.
pretty much anybody would think that. DJ Moore is obviously the guy there. He's been incredible, but what is surprising is just how not involved Robby Anderson is. Robby Anderson and Terrace Marshall are basically equal in snap counts. But at least this past week, this is the first time it's been close. The other weeks, Robby Anderson has outsnapped him. But Anderson wasn't even involved in the offense. If you watch the game, it was surprising to watch. Like, he just had, it wasn't involved. He had one catch for 8 yards on 2 targets.
2 targets.
And then Marshall obviously had the 5 targets, the 4 for 48. So to me, I honestly believe that you threw out this name. This was your idea to throw this one out. When I was looking at this, because I actually thought it was, I still believe Robby Anderson is a pretty talented receiver, but based on how this has developed in the first couple of weeks, Robby Anderson was drafted as ADP 32. At this point, I think you can even drop him. And then Marshall was drafted as wide receiver, probably what wasn't even drafted, maybe wide receiver 65.
Most leagues probably
yeah. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, is it possible that Terrace Marshall is wide receiver 32? Like, he is what Robby Anderson was, what you thought he would be. Do you think it's possible that what we see right now in Terrace Marshall is what Robby Anderson could have been in this offense? He's a 4.4 guy. He's got good speed, obviously. 4.4 is very fast. It's about what I run in a 40-yard dash.
At least I don't lie to the people.
But yeah, he's again. I mean, the fact that they invested a lot in him, taking him at that high. It was a late second round, but still, end of the second round. I personally think this could be the Robby Anderson role with this guy right here from LSU, Terrace Marshall. So what do you think about? Do you think, like you said, like 35, 40? Yeah. He was drafted,
and I was trying to be conservative.
Yeah, like Robby Anderson was drafted as wide receiver 32.
Yeah,
and it kind of, with Sam Darnold, knowing Sam Darnold was going to be quarterback, he was drafted as wide receiver 32. DJ Moore has been better than wide receiver 22. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But Darnold has been a lot better than all of us expected. So I think there's a chance they could have two wide receivers that are not three. I'm not going to say three, but I think not really any team can support three every week. But I mean, even the best offenses struggle with that part. But yeah, I think he could be a legitimate number two. I'm on board. Yeah. I'm on board with this being a real thing, and something that will continue to develop throughout the year. We'll see his snap counts go up. Robby Anderson will look at wide receiver 3, still see some snaps. He's not going to go away. He's still a talented receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more Marshall in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I love his value right now. Like, there's probably still a lot of leagues where you can just pick him up, like a lot of leagues if I had to guess. So
And he hasn't done
keep up.
anything yet. That's the thing.
No,
Like,
not
not
a whole
anything
lot.
crazy.
No,
It's not anything that would get anybody on his radar. So, like, he could be on it because nobody's like, oh, yeah, 4 for 48, 5 targets. It's not crazy. But you look at the snap count, you look at Sam Darnold, how he's playing, you look at how Robby Anderson is not involved in the offense, and you're like, wait, people liked Robby Anderson going in at wide receiver 32, liked him enough to be there. Is there a chance that he might have just been replaced and somebody else could take that role right there?
absolutely. So keep your eye on him. Maybe if you've got a spot on your bench of a guy that you're not, maybe you took a flyer on somebody in the draft and they're just not panning out. He might be worth stashing on your bench. He's a guy that I'm stashing in a couple leagues, and I do. I think he's going to keep moving his way up the board, and I think there will be a time in this season when you are comfortable and maybe even happy about plugging him into your flex spot.
Yeah, we shall see. Definitely a name to look out for. Not on a lot of people's radar, so you're beating it. If you see you're beating the rush, if you see like a nice solid target game, you might even be able to wait on him. But again, just think about that. You don't want to be too late. If there's somebody on the end of your bench that you're like, maybe move. You could probably move on from them and pick this guy up, especially in deeper leagues. But thank you so much for watching. Hit the like, subscribe.
Appreciate it.
5 days a week, Tuesday through Saturdays, there will be videos. 3 short videos, 2 longer ones on Tuesdays and Fridays. Thank you so much. That's it. See ya.
All right. See ya.